Okay. At this point, my geographers, you should have done the interpolation for all four of our years. So we have 2020. We did that together. 2021. Went and did that. 2022. That issue I warned you about, for some of you, making it seem like it would never happen to me. Uh, you might do the kriging and it doesn't quite work for whatever reason. It happened to me for the 2022 data. And so to show you, turn that off, it's angular. This doesn't look as bad as I've seen it look with some student work in the past. Also, the values are off. They don't actually match the data itself. So very weird, but I just went, whatever. I'll do the IDW. If this were some project, some big research project that I was working on, or some important collection of data sets that I was going to publish for the general public to use, or something along these lines, I'd spend a day on this figuring out what's going on. But I don't need to do that. So instead, I just quickly switched over, ran the IDW functionality, and got something that looked right. So I got that. I did the 2023 data, got that. So I have my 4 years, used the same color scheme in symbology, right there to make it all look consistent. And so now what we'll do, and I'm going to start this, but also show you why it's not going to work like this. So you're welcome to follow along and do some of this stuff, but you could also maybe watch a little bit before you move forward. That'll hopefully make sense as I get moving. So what I would want to do here is I've got the 4 years. I want to make one layout, right? Have all 4 years compared on one sheet of paper. So I'm going to do insert, new layout. I'm going to do landscape just because of the nature of my data here to keep it simple in terms of like what you can print in a lot of easily found office printers and all that. I would keep it at tabloid. This landscape 11 by 17 if you have access to a wide format printer or plotter, that's the old way of describing it. I could do something bigger, make some poster size thing. For now, I'm just going to stick with tabloid. So I'll input that or insert that. And then from here, what I could do is actually put in the maps. And this is why it's nice to have them all labeled in here. So I could have, say, 2020 could be here. And then 2021 could be here. And I would adjust the scale and all of this stuff as I go. I'm just going to kind of quickly throw these things in here. Okay, and what you can do, I don't know if I've gotten into this with you before, to really make it look sharp. If you right click in the rulers up here and add guide, you have that blue line that comes through. I can do that and snap things to it, right? And then I can snap this, oh, come on, there we go, to that one, and I can do that and get everything lined up as I want it. Okay, so just that's how you do it. So you right click anywhere, add guide, you can click and drag it to wherever you want it. I would look at the measurements of the page to make sure that it's, I'm really properly using the space, get this all to be the right size. Okay, and if any of these you don't want, you just right click, remove guide, get rid of it. So that's a way to resize these things and get everything lined up nicely. When you do it freehand, it can be kind of sloppy sometimes. You print something out that looks like, well, it looks like this, what I've got here, not going to look as sharp. But that said, whatever, we're just kind of getting this set up here, okay? So ideally, final product is I would have a map like this, and you can right click and hit activate, and that way you can kind of zoom out to where you want it. Make sure we see everything we want to see. And I could lop off some of these islands because honestly, it's not that crucial for what I'm doing. So I could kind of zoom in and get everything looking sharp, right? Go to layout, close activation. This one, assuming I got all these lined up, activate this one. And I could, zoom in. Another thing, actually, let me do this with this guy. I could look at my scale down in the lower left here, my fractional scale. And with this, a general rule of thumb, we'll get into this with the cartography stuff, is round these things. Even if it's got this, 50,000 in here, you make it nice and neat and round for your final product. Not going to make much of a change as you move around, because it's so minor right there. But what I want to do, in fact, let's just change that to 2 million general. Looks pretty good. And that way with this one, I could come in and just do 2 million and then activate. And with a lot of this, it's just, it's tedious, but that's map making, right? Is tedium and making it look just right. So I could go around and clean this stuff up. That's the point I'm making. And labeling it, I would have ideally one legend, maybe somewhere in the middle, somewhere where I can see it. I could have some text around here. So, what's my first year is 2020, right? So I could have, wait, let me zoom in a little bit. So in, the corner, maybe, sorry, I'd have 2020 and 2021 and 2022 and 2023. So I can see which years are which and see the changes and all that stuff. Okay, that's the goal with a map like this, is to have some nice, easy to read thing. Here's the problem though with all of this, with what I'm looking at. Like this shows the different years in here, 2023, here's 2022. If we look at the values that we have, like 2023 was ridiculous in terms of the amount of rainfall that occurred throughout Southern California. We have 46.75 as this top value right here. Whereas 2022, ridiculously dry by comparison, right? The max here is 13.936. Okay? So a case where looking at this stuff, this map is actually quite misleading. It's not really doing a good job of showing us what 2023 was like in terms of precipitation totals compared to 2022 or 21 or 2020 or whatever, right? That's the issue. And this is an issue with classification of data like we have here. When we're getting into classification, we're talking about how do we break these different data values and lump them together and show this stuff, display the data. And there's a lot that gets into this stuff. In fact, I'll put a link for some of Esri's documentation on classification. It's kind of good to read through as a general reference point. But what we're talking about in here is, if I go back to 2020, in the symbology tab, it states here classify, field, this stuff in here. Method, geometric interval is the method that's currently being used. We have other options in here. One that's used quite a bit for data is this natural breaks classification schema. And it's wonderful for a lot of stuff, a lot of different geographic phenomena. But it only works if you are looking at 1 year, right? Or one data set or whatever. Because again, like what we're seeing here with this geometric interval, same issue. It's going to look at the data set itself, make these classification breaks in there based on the data, but that's going to look totally different for another data set. So there's that. We, other things we could do. We could do equal interval. It makes sure that it's a constant value in between these things. So each value would be, every 2 inches, you get some new classification scheme in your new, value in there. That could work. Again, the issue is when you have different years and different data values, maximum, minimum, all of that kind of stuff, doesn't really work for what we're doing here. So what we need to do when trying to compare multiple years, unfortunately, is get in and force some of this stuff. Make it do what we want it to do. We can't just click something and be happy with it. No, we got to get in and actually do some work. So this is part of the challenge of doing a project like this, is to get in and make it meaningful when we get to this layout point. And what we could have done, which would make it, really simple and easy. This is what you do if you're, taking a garbage GIS class, is we would just pick 1 year. We would just do 2023 and look at it and feel good and just leave it there and put our legend in and call it good, right? Or we could just make 4 separate maps and treat them as totally separate things and not worry about it. We could just put in 4 separate legends in here and hope nobody calls us on it. There are all sorts of options we could do. We ain't doing that. We're going to do this like big kids. We're going to be ArcGIS professionals here with what we're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to save what you got. So if you started this whole layout process, fantastic. You can take some time, make it pretty. If you want to, I'm going to leave mine as is. If you didn't start doing this, if you're just listening to me talk, that's cool too. Just leave it for now, and we can do the layout at the very end when we've gone through this stuff. But say what you got, whatever you got, and what we want to do here is get in and reclassify each year, okay, based on a set scheme that I came up with here. And let me actually, hold on one second. I'm going to display this. Realize this is a lot easier if I'm teaching the class and I can just, show it on the screen in the classroom or put it into a Zoom chat. But instead, what I'll do is I'll put this on this screen. Okay, let me, hold on. I know this is thrilling video right now. Let me make this a little bigger so it's clear. But here's my new classification scheme. Okay, this is what I want to use for every single year. So from 0 to 5, whether it's 0 inches, 3 inches, 4.9 inches, whatever, it's going to get a value of 1. We're not going to show it in inches. It's just going to get that 1 value. 5.00001 to 9 is going to get a value of 2. Okay, so basically what that's saying is anything above 5 inches, it gets lumped into that 2 category. And we use, this is just something that is kind of convenient to ensure that if it's on the edge right there, you lump everything above 5 into the second classification. That's just why I have all those zeros in here. So this is the idea. So that's what it'll look like. Now looking at this and looking what we have in 2020, based on this 0 to 5, there's not going to be a 1 value in here, right? And 5.0001 to 9, that 2 value, is going to take this, but also this, and this one, and this one, and this one, and some of the values in here, right? The maximum here is 12.583. That's going to get this classification of 4. Okay, now this might sound weird, and I think it helps to see it. But the idea is I want to have these consistent values for each year so we can meaningfully compare them. Okay? So I'm going to leave this up here. I mean, I guess you can pause it to look at it. I'll reference it as we move forward here. But this is our classification scheme. And it's just something I came up with based on maximum values, minimum values from what I saw looking through the Excel table. Tried to find something that would give us a meaningful comparison. Okay, but I was making it up as I was going through here. What would look good? Okay, so that's that. Let me move this over. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is get into our geoprocessing stuff. We did this last time. This reclassify, right? So input raster. First one I'm going to do Krieging 220 in here, be based on a value. Now it gives me this stuff over here. Let me resize some stuff and move this around so we can see everything. So in here, this 5.77, that's our low value right here, to 6.609, blah, 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 it's going to give it a 1. No, I don't want that. I actually want to change that to 2 because that range there would fit into this second schema right there. 6.6 to 7.2, that's also going to be a 2. All of this is going to be a 2 until we get here. And this is where it's going to get a little tricky. So let me go ahead and just hit 2 and 2 and 2. Okay, and in here, I'm going to change this to, because it is, to 9. And then this one, I'm going to go ahead and make 9.00001. I'll make that a 3. Okay, and that goes to 12. So these will all be 3 right here. And I'll make this 12. There are a few different ways I could do this, but I think this is the easiest way based on what we got. And that 12.0001 to our highest value is going to fit into 4. Oh, hold on. There. Okay, so I'm going to double check. That looks good for what I got. I'm going to hit run. Oh, and the reclassify. Here, let's do a reclass, creating 2020. Yeah, that'll look good. So just so I know what I'm dealing with here, I'll hit run. Hope this works. Yeah. Okay. So what this did was it simplified. Do I even have a spot? Oh, right here is that 4 value. So a little bit around Pasadena. So this looks horrendous and not right, or one, it's too simple. But what we're saying with this is that value 2 in here. Let me go right here and label. What I can do just to help make this make sense is that label 2, and just to simplify it, I can do 5.1 to 9. Okay, this one is 9.1. Again, just simplifying. It's a label to 12, correct? Yeah. And this would be 12.1 to, what was it, 15? Yeah. Okay, so this is what this is saying, okay? Is that of our inches, it's just 3 values in here, right? We don't have anything less than 5 inches of rain. We don't have anything greater than 15 inches of precipitation in the area, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. The next thing we're going to do, let me copy this over right here. Go back to this. This is going to be our color value. Here, bear with me. Here, so the second thing, color for legend. Could probably do this in a way more professional and impressive way, but hey, you get what you pay for, huh? So you're probably paying a decent amount. Look, I'm sorry, I'm making this up as I go. Okay, so color for legend. What I've got here is a consistent color scheme, because here's the other issue. If I do this and I pick one of these in here, whatever color I choose, that was the last one I used. These colors aren't necessarily going to match up for every single year, right? So instead of picking one of these things in here, what I instead want to do is if I left click, so on that actual little swatch of color right here, I just left click on it. I go to color properties, this new window that pops up, color editor, color mode, go to RGB. Okay, and then let me resize. Oh, hold on, let me resize this. Okay, so from here, left click here, color properties, RGB. These numbers here, and this is stuff we're going to get into in the cartography class, color theory stuff, how all this works, why we care about it, how to really extend color in maps. But what it is this R value is the first number along here. So remember, this is 2, classification 2, so I want 208 in here. Then 209 for green, and 230 for the blue. Okay, so going back here, it's these values that I'm inputting into the RGB values right here. Okay, so 208, 209, 230. And you can see this is what it was before. This is the current color. So I hit OK. All right. Same thing for 3. Color properties. I come in here. It's now those guys. Oh, I can't. Oh, well. Go to RGB. Here. So it's 166. 189. These numbers here. This is stuff we're going to get into. 219. Okay, and I hit OK. And I would do the same thing for 4. I'll just go ahead and do it so we can see it. But the idea is I'm going to do this for each map frame that I have. So let's do 4. So let's see what I have. 116, 189, into 19. Some overlap in the values, but that's fine. Okay. These numbers, I just put together a color scheme that would look good for some of this stuff. Okay, that I thought would work together. There's no like meaning behind the colors or whatever. I just got some shades of blue that I thought would work for what we're doing here. Okay, so that's where these numbers are coming from. But right there, this is for 2020. This is effectively what I want it to look like. Okay, if I go back to my layout, that's all gonna, be replicated over here. And then what you need to do is go into 2021. You're gonna do the reclassify thing again. So input raster. We want that Krieging 2021. You're gonna go through and looking. Oh, we need to. If I go back to my layout, unique to read. No, classify. What you need to do is go sorry. Yeah, here we go. This will work. In fact, yeah. What do we have? So if I look at this, we have 3. So we have something less than 5. Sorry, I'm kind of making this up as I go. So let's make this upper value 5. Yeah. This is less than or equal to. Then this one, where's our, let me get our scheme here. Again, so the next one is 9, and then 12, and then 15. Less than or equal to. Then this one, should work. And then what was our 9 next? And then 20. Okay. If I hit OK. Beautiful. In fact, is that all set? That's way easier than the way I had you do it before. This is, again, a real professional would like do trial runs, little dress rehearsals for these videos and try to remember what his notes actually meant and all of that stuff. But whatever. This is it's all part of my pedagogical philosophy and all that. There's a reason why I'm chaotic with this stuff. It's to help you learn. That's all. Okay, so that should fit then with our things. We'll actually have a 1 value in there. These 2, 3, and 4. That's like from 2020. But we also had some more precipitation around the area this year. So we get that 5 category. We're going to call this Reclassify Krieg 2021. And we'll hit run. A 1 value. And there you go. Again, it's a clown show of what it's given us right here. But you would go in. So we go back to symbology. Come on in here. Do the color properties thing. One thing you can do to make it a little easier. Here, let me go ahead and pull this up. Oh, wait, I need to what it's given us right here. Resize this to make it work. So for 1 here, it's, let's see, 241, 238, 246, in here. All right, that's value 1. Now, one thing I shouldn't have hit enter, but with this one, when I have this color editor window up, I can save color to style. If I left click there, and I can call this Precip 1, right? And you could do whatever you want in there. If I hit OK and OK, in theory, yeah, beautiful. I now have this saved up here. And same thing, I go through number 2. In fact, let's go here with number 2, color properties, since I already did this. Save color to style. Precip 2.
save.
Okay.
And same thing. I go through number.
And so that way, when I'm going through here and I click on value 2, I've got that right there. And if I hover over it, it says precip 2. And so I don't have to do the RGB value over and over and over and over. You follow? So that's the idea. You could go, as you're going through this, initially hit the save to, the style. It'll be there for you. So you don't have to go through and replicate this over and over and over. You'll reclassify for 2021, 2022, 2023. And the idea is, you come back here, that by the end of this, you'll have some meaningful maps that you can compare, because this value here, that second category, the 5.1 to 9 inches, it's the same color over here as it is over here, and as it will be for this one and for this one, right? So we can actually see these 4 maps, and the colors will be meaningful throughout the entire final product, right? That's the idea. That's what we're going for. And then we can, instead of, like, you can look at what you got for 20. Yeah, none of these are going to span every single, 1 through 7 reclassification value that we have. So inserting a legend isn't going to be perfect. What you can do in this graphics thing is just, you can make your own legend. Just draw it yourself. I can do a little rectangle right here, right? If I go to right click, properties, symbol over here, it's just giving me that. But I can select, because I save these things, precip 1. And I'll hit apply, right? And then I can have some, text thing right here. I can put it right there. And in the properties over here, I can do, what was it? That was 0 to 5. Okay. And let's kind of zoom in to this, and I can line it up. And if it's not quite lining up like I like, I can put the guides in. I can do this, and I can, select both of those, Control C, Control V to copy them. I can bring that down here from the properties, symbol. I select precip 2 and hit apply. And this would be 5.1 to 9, right? So I make my own legend. When this is all done, I'll have one legend that you'll be able to use for all 4 maps. You dig? So we can actually compare. We can see how dry was 2020 compared to 2023, right? And it'll actually make sense. You won't have to do some, math in your head to actually see what was going on. No, it'll be very clear, much darker colors in the wetter years, lighter colors in the drier years. You can have one title, and this is, I'll leave it up to you to actually set up the layout, right? You can have, let me select all these things. You could kind of move this stuff over. You could have the title in the middle if you wanted, and the title could be, annual precipitation totals for Southern California, and you could, so it's not, we don't have Orange County and San Diego and all that included. Frankly, I'm fine with that. San Diego, please. So, you could say just Southern California and ignore San Diego, which I'm fine with. Take that, San Diego. Or you could put for, some of San Diego, some of Southern California, portions of Southern California, however you want to do it. All right, but you could have this here. You could have in inches, so this makes sense. That way, if you don't like the way that looks, you could get rid of this.
That way, if you don't like the way that looks.
And with this here, just put a little IN, 4 inches, or spell it out just so it's clear. Do that for every single one, just for consistency's sake. And just go like that, right? And I'd make this one bigger. I wouldn't use Tahoma. Make it pretty, however you want to make it look, right? So you could have it going through the middle and the 4 maps over to the side. You could also move this up if you don't like that. Some people don't. Whoops, that was horrendous. There, some people don't like, so you gotta be careful with your cursor. They don't like that, so you could have this stuff brought down. And of course I'm resizing everything so it all matches, so it looks gorgeous. You don't really need a video of me being obsessive over this stuff, but you get the idea, right? So position this however you want to position it. Create your legend however you want to create it. It could be lined up and going across, and I could have the 3rd classification, 4th, 5th, and so on, and have that nice and centered over here when I'm all done with it. And this could be nice and centered over here. However you want to do it. I leave it up to you. But your end goal with this is to go in, reclassify everything, do the proper color schema so it all matches throughout. Make sure these are labeled. Oh, I can't do that. This is why your next move is to learn how to use Adobe Illustrator and export this stuff, because this, even though it's gotten better, this ArcGIS stuff is rough. But yeah, make sure it's all labeled so I know what year is what. Make it beautiful layout design. Once you've got it, one legend, 4 years, the reclassification, all of this stuff. Go to share, export layout, give me a JPEG, upload that to Canvas. Okay? Hopefully this made sense. Hopefully you worked through it, but be aware, like being able to do this. This is some high level stuff. My little, early on entry level GIS folks. You're learning the good stuff, and the main point with this is so you might not ever make a map of precipitation totals, but there's a good chance you're going to make a map of values over multiple years, and it's really good to understand how all this works. How classification works, and how you can't just quickly, spit out this interpolation or anything along these lines, and just put 4 maps next to each other on a layout and have it be meaningful. You have to kind of go through and think about this stuff, right? Not everybody learns this. Not every working GIS person understands these concepts. You're going to be a step above and a step ahead of a lot of these people in your competition for when you're going for that first job or that second job or third job or whatever. So it might seem like a lot, might seem kind of obnoxiously obsessive with going through all this stuff and why do we need to do this, but trust me, this is what we do for good data visualization, to be able to compare these things properly and to just have a scientifically and statistically sound end product that we can be proud of. You dig? So have at it. Any issues, shoot me an email, but I'm looking forward to seeing some pretty good looking maps when you're done. All right? All right. Have fun.
All right.